Some time ago, I tried to paint the sea environment as a Draw This in Your Style challenge, the Coelho challenge. And then I realized I cannot paint water. In fact, this first version took so long that it messed up the time-lapse recording. Not even 2,000 times would fit in a YouTube video. It was unwatchable. So I went back to my room in shame. I felt so defeated that I took this personally and I went to study water vigorously. I'll share here what I've learned. First, I've noticed there are multiple types of water. This happens due to reflectivity, mostly. The more reflective, clean, and transparent the water, the more it takes colors from the environment. That is, from other elements of the frame. So, usually, when painting water, we should look for colors to pick from the scene. Moving forward, I wanted to paint water in an abstract way, using hard edges mostly, and avoiding soft edges or gradients. This naturally pushes the image to a cel-shaded look, like in anime or stylized games. But I also wanted to avoid cel shading. My goal was to make it look realistic despite lacking soft transitions. So the first study was this boat reference. Water here has a high reflectivity. The blobs of water have well-defined shapes. It is also calm water, neither has many waves nor foam. This reference helped me understand how the water distortion is shaped, and how to sculpt those shapes. The reflections also act almost like a mirror. They draw colors very similar to the original reflected objects. To paint the underwater stones, all we need is multiple layers of rounded shapes with little HSB variations. I'll explain it better in the next example. The second study was more challenging. This water is not so pure, with less reflections. It also has its own color tint, kinda green. Remember that I limited myself to using only hard round brush, no mixing. So this one was really difficult. How could I even picture something that is essentially gradients, but without using soft edges? Well, it took me forever to figure out. I've spent hours and hours fiddling around with the brush. I had absolutely no idea of what I was doing. Searching for an answer for hours long, wasting brush strokes. Until it clicked. The trick is to swap between the brush and an eraser with the same hard round brush tip. Painting the masses with the brush and then sculpting it with the eraser. There is no random brush stroke, it is always intentional. The second tip is to make several layers that slightly vary hue, saturation, or brightness. Always keep it subtle, not more than 5% variations, mostly 2 or 3%. This adds texture and also simulates a gradient when you stack 4 or more of them. It kind of feels like cell shading, except you're stacking so many cells until it looks smooth. The first step of all is to separate light and dark in a very hard and cell-shaded way. Only then I paint the 3% variations within the dark and within the light. The average saturation for this style is around 50%. I try to not stray away too much from that anchor point, since it's easier to make mildly desaturated colors work together harmoniously. Also, I want realistic, and reality is often desaturated. At the end, I may add some saturated spots for focus or accents. Maybe some color dodge too. Since this water is tinted and not so reflective, the reflections slightly shift towards the color of the water. And now back to the failed attempt. It is visible how the brush strokes are dirty. I was just hopefully waiting for the shapes to solve themselves. Then, after the studies, I repainted the water from scratch. One, separate light and dark. 2. Add 3% variations within the shadows and sculpt them. 3. Stack as many layers of variations as needed. Four. Do the same for the light group. And 5. Pay attention to the planes of the waves. Account for reflections and pick colors from reflected environment. Sky, clouds, boat, wood, metal, flag, battle, characters. Reflect all of them on top of the water. For instance, the left pointing planes are white because they reflect the big cloud and the sun. I couldn't believe how fast I painted it this time. The studies paid off so much. This is astonishing. Here is the before and after. Before and after.